Hi, and thank you for visiting my channel. For more information, kindly subscribe and follow now. Let's get started. An old clip of Josiah Duggar has resurfaced, and now fans are questioning his robotic happiness. They wonder if he's actually truly happy and what might have contributed to his lack of emotion on a very special day. Keep reading to get the full story. Recently, many clips from old episodes of TLC's 19 Kids and Counting On have surfaced, showing some of the moments that fans haven't seen in years. One video, in particular, has sparked a discussion about Josiah and his emotions. It looks like the video has given viewers insight into who Josiah is and what shaped his personality. On Reddit, a Duggar snarker shared a clip from Josiah and Lauren's wedding day. The original poster says, "Call me crazy, but I'm not thinking Josiah's wedding was the happiest day of his life." The video shared captures a moment between the bride and groom on their special day. Duggar critics think that the exchange looks awkward and like Josiah is unable to truly convey feelings of happiness. You can watch it below. Some Reddit users are blaming Josiah Duggar's robotic happiness on the way he was raised. They wonder if the Duggar kids get enough love from their parents. If not, this could explain why Josiah was not as lovey and affectionate to Lauren on their wedding day. One user says, "You can tell these kids never had any real love or affection from their parents. They have absolutely no idea what to do or say in these situations." Someone else says, "I don't think it's that he wasn't happy. They just have no idea how to show affection because of the very robotic way they grew up." Another Duggar critic adds, "This whole thing feels so awkward, like teenagers on their first real date ever and not two adults getting married." Of course, no one really knows what happened behind the scenes when Josiah Duggar was growing up. But from what fans and critics have seen, it seems possible that his upbringing contributed to his lack of emotion in the video above. So, do you think that Josiah Duggar's upbringing affected his emotions at this moment? Do you think he seemed robotic when talking with Lauren on their wedding day? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. For more Duggar family news, the Duggar family, famous for their reality TV show 19 Kids and Counting and its spin-off Counting On, has captivated audiences for years. The appeal of the show lay in the enormous family's strict Christian values, their modest lifestyle, and the unusual charm of managing life with 19 children. Among the Duggar siblings, Josiah Duggar stood out for his lively personality and seemingly upbeat demeanor. But over time, fans began to notice something strange about Josiah's happiness. It seemed almost robotic, a programmed response rather than a genuine reflection of joy. As the years passed, the authenticity of Josiah's happiness became a subject of discussion. What is the truth behind Josiah Duggar's robotic happiness? To understand Josiah Duggar's demeanor, it's essential to grasp the environment in which he was raised. The Duggar children grew up in a highly controlled, patriarchal, and religious environment. Jim Bob and Michelle Duggar, the family's matriarch and patriarch, followed a strict interpretation of the independent fundamental Baptist movement. This lifestyle dictated every aspect of the Duggar children's upbringing, from their clothing and schooling to their relationships and personal development. Josiah, the eighth child in the Duggar family, was raised with rigid expectations. The Duggar children were taught to present a picture-perfect image of happiness, obedience, and contentment. Any signs of rebellion or dissatisfaction would be seen as a failure to adhere to the family's religious principles. From a young age, Josiah, like his siblings, was expected to show constant cheerfulness and gratitude, regardless of how he may have felt inside. The external performance of happiness became a shield, a way to avoid criticism or discipline. This environment cultivated a kind of robotic happiness, where emotions were less about genuine feelings and more about maintaining the family's reputation. Josiah, who was naturally more extroverted and expressive than some of his siblings, learned to channel his emotions into what seemed like exaggerated cheerfulness. But over time, the cracks in this facade became more apparent. As a member of a family constantly in the public eye, Josiah Duggar's life was under intense scrutiny from an early age. 19 Kids and Counting aired in 2008, when Josiah was a teenager. The show's success meant that every move the Duggar children made was broadcast to millions of viewers. This level of exposure created a pressure cooker environment where Josiah, along with his siblings, had to continuously live up to the expectations of both his parents and the audience. Josiah's robotic happiness became more noticeable as he entered adulthood. Fans and viewers of Counting On began to comment on the apparent forced nature of his smiles, his over-enthusiastic responses, and his almost mechanical attempts at appearing joyful. Critics pointed out that while his siblings, particularly those who had married and started families of their own, seemed to settle into their roles more naturally, Josiah appeared to struggle with the persona he was expected to maintain. The constant pressure to appear happy, combined with the awareness that millions were watching, likely exacerbated this robotic performance. For someone like Josiah, who was already prone to high-energy expressions, the added weight of public expectation may have pushed him into overcompensation. Instead of letting his true emotions show, he doubled down on the appearance of happiness, making it appear less genuine and more rehearsed. Josiah's marriage to Lauren Swanson in 2018 became another focal point for discussions around his robotic happiness. The Duggar family follows a strict courtship model, where dating is heavily chaperoned, and physical contact is limited to side hugs until the couple's wedding day. Courtship is not so much about romance as it is about finding a life partner who shares the family's religious values. When Josiah began courting Lauren, fans were quick to notice a change in his demeanor. While courtship and marriage are traditionally seen as joyful milestones, Josiah's behavior became even more exaggerated. He appeared to be trying too hard to prove how happy and in love he was, prompting speculation that this was yet another instance of his programmed happiness at work. Some fans suggested that Josiah's robotic happiness was a defense mechanism, his way of masking the internal conflict he felt about the expectations placed on him. While Josiah and Lauren's relationship seemed happy on the surface, the intense pressure to live up to the Duggar family's idealized model of marriage may have created underlying tension. After all, Josiah had grown up with very little personal freedom, and the sudden transition to husband and father could have magnified the expectations he already faced. When Lauren experienced a miscarriage shortly after their marriage, Josiah's public persona shifted slightly. He and Lauren shared their grief publicly, and for perhaps the first time, fans saw a more vulnerable side of Josiah. Yet even in the face of this tragedy, Josiah's emotional responses often seemed rehearsed, as though he had been trained to suppress his true feelings and replace them with the appropriate reaction for the cameras. To understand the robotic nature of Josiah Duggar's happiness, one must also look at the role of faith in his life. The Duggar family's religious beliefs are based on the teachings of Bill Gothard, founder of the Institute in Basic Life Principles, IBLP. The IBLP teaches strict adherence to biblical principles, often interpreted through a rigid and authoritarian lens. Joy and happiness are seen as moral imperatives in this belief system, with any deviation from cheerfulness considered sinful or a sign of spiritual failure. In this context, Josiah's robotic happiness can be seen as a product of his religious upbringing. He was taught that to be unhappy or discontented was not just a personal failing, but a spiritual one. This may have caused him to suppress any negative emotions, replacing them with the outward performance of joy, even if that joy felt hollow. Moreover, the Duggar family's emphasis on presenting a perfect, wholesome image to the world meant that Josiah's emotions were never truly his own. He was always performing, whether for his family, his faith community, or the millions of viewers tuning in to watch his life unfold on television. As a result, Josiah's happiness became less about what he truly felt and more about what he was expected to feel. As Josiah Duggar continues to navigate adulthood, marriage, and fatherhood, there are signs that he may eventually break free from the robotic happiness that has characterized so much of his public persona. His public vulnerability during the miscarriage was a step toward authenticity, showing that he is capable of feeling and expressing emotions beyond the surface-level happiness he was conditioned to display. However, it's unclear how much freedom Josiah truly has to forge his own path. The Duggar family remains closely tied to its values and the public image it has built. For Josiah to fully embrace his authentic self, he may need to distance himself from the expectations that have shaped his life thus far, something easier said than done in the world of reality TV and rigid faith communities. In the end, the truth behind Josiah Duggar's robotic happiness may lie in the tension between personal identity and familial obligation. Raised in a world where joy was an expectation rather than a natural emotion, Josiah's journey toward genuine happiness may only just be beginning. The question remains whether he can find the courage to be truly happy on his own terms.